Ladies and gentlemen, the following. There I go again. Ladies and gentlemen, the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society, proudly presents to you another outstanding episode of 15 Minutes of Fandom. That's right. What we do here is we take the spotlight and put it on one wrestling fan that we feel stands out from the rest. With that being said, I'm your host, that ocean crossing, straight up Boston, flight catching, shot glass snatching, does it for the passion, never to be famous, fresh off a trip from the city of angels, no cap, straight facts, the worldwide starboy, Remy Blue. But it's not about me. You see, we have a special woman here today who is doing great things over in the city of angels. For those of y'all that don't know, that's Los Angeles, California. She is an old school wrestling fan, and she also is a content creator, podcaster like myself. Everybody, welcome to the show, the LA Wrestle Chick. How you doing tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Awesome. Hey, thank you for doing this for us. This is one of the things that we live for, and it's talking to our fellow wrestling fans as well. It's too bad that I'm just sorry that my two other co-hosts couldn't be here because I'm pretty sure they would have loved to meet you. But hopefully, when we have you back, because we do have a lot of our 50 minutes of fandom guests back for our prediction shows for WB or AEW. We definitely, hopefully they'll get you to meet you at that time or even for our podcast or even for our not podcast for our topics episodes, hopefully you get to meet them as well. But with that being said, man, you are so lucky to be living in LA. The California wrestling scene there is awesome. Man, I was so amazed by it once again this past week. I knew what I was getting into, and
Did you
I got
know? Did you know? Did you really think you knew what you were getting into here? Because from the top of California to the bottom of California is nothing but wrestling. And we are what, the third largest state in the union. And we got wrestling from the top, from the border of Oregon down to the other border of another country, Mexico. We have such an influence here all around, and they all come here. So there's no real one type of wrestling here. You have the lucha libre, which is very Mexican influence, and it's wonderful to watch these guys and gals get together and do their thing. I mean, these are high flyers. You see acrobatics like you've never seen before, and you got the women doing it too.
oh
And
yeah.
that's not just with that. You got women death matches doing it. Now, I'm a death match girl. You will normally see me at the death matches. I'm totally about them. I know everybody. So you got the ladies and the guys coming here, laying it out on the line, laying it in the ring or laying it around the ring. And you have a lot of the Japanese influences comes here too. So again, it's not just one type of wrestling. You just got to go here, you got to go there, and you have just so much flavor here. And I'm sure that's what you experienced also.
Oh yeah.
Now, how
I
was your WrestleMania experience?
Well, I didn't. So you're probably gonna think I'm weird for this, but I flew 5.5 hours or 6 hours all the way from New York, which is where I'm at, to California just for the Indies. I did not care to go to see.
No, that's wonderful. That for me, that's wonderful. When I was a youngster, and we're not going into that, I burnt out WWF. I actually remember WWF, the daddy, and WWF, AWA, NWA, WCW, WCW with Ted Turner. I remember I burnt all of that out. One of my favorite things to do right now is to go back on YouTube and look at the old NWA shows. When you see Ric Flair at his finest, Magnum TA looked better than sugar on a stick, and he knew it too. The original Four Horsemen. That's one of the things I really like to do. It brings me back to my kid days of when wrestling was real wrestling and you didn't have all this high flying. Not that I'm not saying you don't like it, but it was just bump and grind wrestling. So, but we still have that here. Now you're all the way up in New York.
Yeah.
Now we got a big thing here when PCW Ultra. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Oh,
A
I've
lot of
heard of
the
them.
Okay, a lot of the stars in there are in MLW, and they bring all of that angst here and have uh, New York versus LA matches, and that's when everybody's fuck New York, fuck New York. It's always it's I always love those matches because it's cool. It's real cool to see that everybody gets together and all the mania happening, and you get to see people from the East Coast too.
Oh yeah, it's always great. New York is definitely a different vibe. The thing with New York, I don't know if you've ever been over here.
One time, 10 years
Okay,
ago.
okay. I don't know if you've ever experienced the wrestling scene over here, but
No.
it's different. Like we, for some reason, we come up with creative chants on the fly. Like we would come up with some stuff that, like for example, when Fandango first debuted, and he was doing the da 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 da. I remembered when we actually started that here in New York. We started that whole humming thing, if I'm not mistaken. And then also I remember there was a time it was WrestleMania 29 actually. I remember if I remember specifically, there was a video of some fans. I guess they were going back to New York from New Jersey after WrestleMania, and they all started singing the Fandango, humming the Fandango theme song. And then I may or may not be correct with this, but if memory serves me right, somebody was saying, "Hey, stop, stop, stop! You guys need to let the A, you guys need to let the A breathe." And then they started singing. I was like, man, you gotta love New York fans, man. They're one of a kind, you know.
I think we're better though. Ha 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 ha
Well,
ha.
well. You're from LA. You live in California, so I would expect you to say that. But
California,
if I could
know
say
how to
something,
party. Yes, sir.
if I if I could say something, that is, like I say, no cap, straight facts. Um, in New York, it's not a matter of if there's a wrestling show at um if there's a wrestling show this weekend, but it's where you want to see wrestling. Because do you want to go to Brooklyn? Do you want to go to the Bronx? Do you want to go to the one in Queens? Do you want to or do you want to go to New York City? Or matter of fact, do you want to go all the way over the Hudson to New Jersey, which is right next door? So it's not a matter of if there's a wrestling show this week, but it's a matter of which one do you want to go to. So we're pretty, I'd say we have a pretty great wrestling scene, and everybody, I will say this, from all over the world comes here. Everybody. There isn't a single person that I can't think of. I'm sure Hammerstone has been over there, and Brad Gansman, who was saying Oregon is better.
Hammerstone is tearing it up as usual. He just won a championship with NTLL.
Okay.
Shameless plug. Another great lucha libre organization out in the metropolis of Palmdale. They know where they're at. He was the champion at PCW Ultra. That's been shifted over to Fatu, Jacob Fatu, the Samoan dynasty.
Oh, I
Uh,
know.
with
He also has
that,
a brother named Journey that also wrestles. So here's the funny thing about me. I may be in New York, but I know a pretty good amount of stuff going on all over the wrestling world. Like you want to know a young lady who I think you should watch out for?
who?
Zoe Dubois.
I have not heard of her. That's not saying
So
she hasn't been here, but if she's tearing it up on that side of the country.
no, she's over in She was over in California. You and I met at the Dark Art. You went to the Dark Art show,
I
right?
was That's how we met. That's how we met. Yeah.
So remember Kid Bandit's tag team partner?
Oh, that young lady, the swan, the black swan.
The Black Swan. So
Oh, oh my gosh, she was so graceful in how she did everything. I said when I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, I love the way she flowed, she moved, and how she delivered everything, and the fact that she's so flexible. I Yes, you are correct. You are correct. But that was my first time seeing her, so and I
mine,
was impressed.
well, it was my first time seeing her live. I've seen her on AEW Dark, and when I saw her, I was like, "This woman is gonna go places." And it's funny because there's another woman that actually told me about her. I don't know if you know her, Lara Frazier, over in California, and she was like, and I was asking her who I think, I was asking her who she thinks we should be on the lookout for and have on the show. And that was one of the people she mentioned, and she talked about the Black Swan that she took her character from the Black Swan, the movie Black Swan, which
Yeah,
is one of my favorite movies. So I'm like, oh really? Okay, so I looked her up and I was like, boom, let's make an interview happen. So yeah, I would definitely say she's one that you definitely that I would be I'd be watching a lot too. But y'all just have like a great a great scene over there, and I guess I knew what I was getting into because if you really look at it, 20 it was 2015 I was over there in Southgate, and there was AWS. And AWS, that's how I knew about people like, the Stoner Bros. And then you had Shotzi Blackheart. And there was a woman by name, I believe her name was Yolanda, who looked like she could like outwork anybody in the gym. And then you had Nicole Savoy, and Renee Michelle was there too. Well, Renee Michelle was actually from the DMV area. So I was like, when I left that show, I was thoroughly impressed. I was like, wow, this is awesome. California definitely has
some
a lot.
heavy hitters out here. I mean, and sometimes they've only been in the industry for like, 2, 3, fresh out of training camp, and they're just tearing it up
Yeah.
from one end to the other end.
Oh yeah. So tell us a bit, man. So I gotta ask, how did it all start for you? How did you become a fan of professional wrestling, and what was the match that you saw that got you hooked?
What happened was this. I, as a kid, was a tomboy. I was a tomboy, so I always did a lot of what the boys did. Work on cars, play drums. I understand football and sports and stuff. So I was a tomboy. So all the boys at school were talking about wrestling, and I knew that was a part of the Olympics, but what they were describing was nothing you would ever see in the Olympics. So eventually, I found it on TV, and it was the WWF at the time, and I was just like, wow. So in order to keep up with the guys, being a tomboy, of course I had to watch the same television shows as they did. So that's what kind of started it off for me. Now, I actually went to shows and so forth. It really makes me think about my mom actually let me go to the Capitol Center, which is on the East Coast. I was living on the East Coast as a kid,
Okay.
in Maryland, to the Cap Center to go watch wrestling shows with, and I think I had been about 12 or 13. She would just let me go.
Oh
Or the
wow.
DC, yeah, or the DC Armory. I don't think that exists anymore, but she would just let me go. She knew I could take care of myself, and fortunately, nothing ever really happened. She, found me and scooped me up, and I went back home, but she would just let me go. And I used to go to the things all the time. I remember the Mulkeys, the Masked Superstar, all these old timers. So from there, went to college, stayed watching the WWF, and then you had the classics on ESPN to watch. uh, then for a while I really just started to focus on my career. And it was just a couple of years ago I came across a gentleman, the Wrestling Enthusiast podcast, who shout out to Eric, shout out to Wendy. Uh, and I saw them at a show where Sandman was there because I remember seeing ECW in Baton Rouge, and I remember Sandman was at the show there. So I was like, oh my gosh, Sandman's still wrestling, doing something. So I went out, saw him down in Wilmington, next to Long Beach, and from then on, I've just been back in the scene again. For me, it's a release. What I do is very, very scientific grind. You're counting numbers all the day. You have to talk, strict talk with everybody and so forth. So you're being a stiff board all day. So to go to a wrestling match and you see all this debauchery and craziness, which is probably why I like death matches so much, it's a big release for me. And I don't let it go that a lot of these men and women are putting themselves on the line every time they do one of these loop de loops or even with a suplex. Steve Austin was really damaged by a suplex. Draz was paid the ultimate price on a misplaced suplex. So
And that
I,
was
I
that was a sad situation.
yes, 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 yes. And I like this character of Puke. If you ever heard Vince McMahon build that up, he's about to puke. Oh my gosh, he's about to puke. He's gonna puke. I mean, it just Vince McMahon has a voice. You cannot. All the silliness aside, he has a throat. He has a golden throat and a voice. So yeah, that's so I always try to remind folks that these guys are putting themselves on the line all the time, especially in death matches when you're really playing around with some heavy duty toys. So for me,
Yeah,
it's a release. It's a big release, and to meet these folks, I always think it's a wonderful to be honored to meet some of these guys and gals.
yeah. You see, it's instances like when Draws got paralyzed, which I think that if he had never gotten paralyzed, he would have gone very far in WWE. I always said if I had to choose somebody to, I mean, both Road Warriors are now no longer with us, but if I had to choose one wrestler to carry on the Road Warrior legacy, that or not choose, but I would
The heir
accept,
apparent.
yeah, be carry on the Road Warrior legacy that is wearing the spikes in the face paint. Draws would definitely be that guy. That'd be the only person that I would like be like, and maybe Kensuke Sasaki, who was actually the first ever third Road Warrior back in the New Japan days. But Draws, like I said, he would be the only one that I would accept doing that. And I didn't care for Heidenreich. Did not care for that. Although nothing against him, I just didn't feel that. But yeah, I think Draws would have been the best. Would have been the one that he would have gone far. But not even that. Seeing stuff like that, and then of course, there was Rey Mysterio and Perro Aguayo Jr. or El Hijo del Palmo Perro Aguayo, who died because of a botched move that he was doing on the middle rope. And then even recently, more recently, you had not Chris Bosch, Chris Bay. I don't know if you ever saw the Instagram video, but he was practicing in the ring, and the top rope collapsed, and he landed like round his neck. And luckily, as you can see, he's still wrestling. But luckily, it
You're never
wasn't.
the same after that. You're not going to be, twisting yourself up into a pretzel again anymore. Uh, they're pretty limited. I mean, Hayabusa.
Oh, oh yeah, 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 and that's why you see, like, when it comes to like our podcast, like, we don't hesitate to. We tell people, look, we don't care if you had one match or 1,000 matches. The fact that you go into that ring and you put on a show for us is enough for us to say, hey, we want to talk to you. We've had people that have only had one match under their belt, and we were like, okay, we could talk about that one match. We could talk about, oh, you only refereed one match. We could talk about that one match. Let's do it. You know.
I would be
So,
interested in listening to that because you're kind of getting, it's like asking somebody after they've had sex for the first time, how was that? Did this, did that, I mean, no,
man,
I would be interested in, how to break it down to me. What happened? Sting, what were you thinking?
This is this is like the second time in a span of I guess you could say a week. I don't know. Maybe it's something somebody's putting something on, that somebody's made a sex reference. Before you, we had our WrestleMania 39 predictions episode, and it was actually my own co-host Kathy that was like, she was saying we were talking about the Omos and Brock Lesnar match, and she was like, yeah, well, one of my guests George was like, yeah, that's a bathroom break match, and then Kathy was like, that's a baby making match right there. That's a match that make you want to go and make a baby, and not want to bother with. So I'm like, okay, yeah,
Not exactly what I would use to describe that match, but okay, okay, we'll work with it.
yeah, yeah, that match wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. So yeah, so that's pretty much what we do, and we offer people stories from like all sides of all sides of the what I call the wheel of professional wrestling. Because yes, wrestlers are the focal point, but there are many parts. There's gear designers, gear makers, There's ring announcers, referees, promoters. So we figured if we would interview Vince McMahon, then why not the owner of, let's say, Dark Arts Entertainment or Relentless?
That's
You know,
something that I'm working with right now. Because I was going from show to show to show, and some of the talent that was coming from across your side of the world, people who we've never seen, I haven't heard of before. I told them, look, give me a week afterwards, after everything's settled out. I want to try to interview you. And plus, I was looking at the cameramans needs to be interviewed. The guys that actually make up the equipment or the weapons in death matches. You have several people of companies that they get hired to make those crazy things that you see in death matches. You see those long tubes. They're all taped together and they're 6 feet tall. Somebody did that. Uh, they all have a story. They all come together to put on this wonderful show, just like a play. And they all have a story, and it deserves to be told. I totally agree with that. I'm working with folks right now to start scheduling a lot of interviews for that on
yeah,
my
and
podcast. Mhm.
that's cool. And plus, you never know who's gonna be who in the near future. We have had people that have gone on to be signed by WWE and AEW, that have gone on to wrestle in MLW and so on. So yeah, you never know who's gonna be who.
There's
And
been a lot of people out of PCW Ultra that has made it to Wrestle Camp with the WWE as well as AEW. I mean, Nick Wayne rolls through here all the time.
about him.
Same thing with okay. Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm trying to think his name here. He uh Jordan Miles, ACH.
Okay,
ACH was through in here, and he went to the. I was quite happy when he made it to the WWE. I wasn't expecting all of all that transpired. I'm like, okay, we all have a story again. But yeah, there's a lot of talent here. And then again, you cannot deny what's being pumped out of Mexico. You can actually go across the border to Mexico and see a lot of stuff,
oh yeah,
which is really cool. Make sure you have your all your stuff straight. Back in the day, you used to be able to cross the border and come back on a driver's license. Some people say you still can do that. I wouldn't trust it, but
nah, I'm good. I ever since I saw that, look, I'm not trying to sound offensive towards anybody's country, but ever since I saw that one situation where that group decided to drive over and they got kidnapped and only two came back alive, I'm like, yeah, I'll take my.
that's not the first time that's happened. There's another case that
Oh,
happened
I know.
last year. So
I know another one that happened many years before that. You probably remember this, Craig Kilroy, or was it Mark Kilroy? Yeah, I'm not gonna get into detail, but yeah, that was messed up, and Yeah, I mean I'll go, but I'm gonna stay myself in Cancun and just stay to myself and not flash any money and just stay in my little corner and yeah. I mean, which in you can get got anywhere. I mean, come on, I'm in New York and all it takes is somebody to just pull up on you, a gang of people just pull up on you. So I mean, but yeah, yeah, Mexico is a great is a great country. A lot of people, a lot of great wrestlers are coming out of there, and I've seen AAA and CML, and they're doing great things over there as well too. So definitely greatness coming from there as well. So what was it like watching WWE back in the day, seeing like the AWA and NWA and all that? Like, who were some of your favorites you enjoyed growing up? I know you mentioned Magnum TA, who in my opinion was one of the toughest. Um, one of the many hills I'll be willing to die on is if Magnum TA did not get into that accident, he would have been NWA World Champion eventually. There was no denying. But who were some of your favorites you enjoyed watching?
David Von Erich.
Oh, the Yellow Rose of Texas. Okay,
Yellow Rose of Texas. Yes. That's another RIP nostalgia. What if? Same thing with Gino Hernandez, another what if.
okay.
Uh
Classic tag team with Chris Adams. Yes. R.I.P. to
gentleman Chris
Gentleman Chris
Adams.
Adams. Yeah.
That was all in that same little part of Texas where HBK, Steve Austin, there
Yeah.
were it was all that little corner of Texas that was happening that was just pumping out folks there too.
Yeah.
Now as far as AWA, what's this? Jimmy Valiant, Rock and Roll Buck Zumhoff,
Ooh,
oh,
ooh, ooh.
Paul Orndorff. I always liked Paul Orndorff. Paula, Paula. I always liked Paul Orndorff. I was sad to find out when he passed away, but uh Bob Orton, Cowboy Bob Orton. Yeah, when I found out we have another Orton running around here, I was like, oh, him? I was like, okay, they're related. They don't look nothing alike. Okay,
All right.
but yeah, I remember Cowboy Bob Orton. There was a black female wrestler. Her name was Black Venus. I don't know where she is now. There's been several Black Venus. I think this was more like in Minnesota. Uh, I remember, Velvet McIntyre, Princess Victoria, of course, the fabulous Moolah, Leilani Kai. Uh,
What?
what?
Man, if I had known you earlier, you would have been so shocked. Matter of fact, I'm going to shock you right now. We had Princess Victoria on our show twice.
Oh my gosh! Oh wow! I used to love to watch her with her pigtails, and she would go into a dance, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. I always Wendy Richter. I always enjoyed waiting for the ladies to come in and wrestle the few times that they did. Uh, my one soapbox about women's wrestling here. One, I'll get on the soapbox and then I'll jump off real quick. I
Quick
want
hit.
to see women wrestle. Okay, I'm tired of the gimmicks. I'm tired of the tits and ass. I'm tired of uh, having everything hang out, flap around, all the sequins. I just want to see women wrestle. You don't see the men running around with all this stuff. I mean, even when you had the Japanese women come over, they were pretty subdued. Now you start seeing them look like anime dolls and K-pop and stuff. But just back in the day, I just really enjoyed seeing two women, grapple with each other. Now, I'm not saying none of the women are not talented. Sure, they are. Look at Jade Cargill. There's several others, but I just hated that it has to be so gimmicky. And I believe there was a show where several female wrestlers were told that they had to lose weight and all of this. And I just want to see women wrestle and not and kill it with the gimmicks and stuff like this. I'm trying to think. Bussy. What's her name? Not Effie.
Cat,
The Alley
Alley
Cat.
Catch.
I appreciate her style because yeah, she has a big bum bum, but that's a natural big bum bum. But her body is not a Coca-Cola bottle. It's a woman's body. And she's going out there tossing it up, proving that you can toss it up without having to look like a Coca-Cola bottle or a Playboy bunny. Like a lot of, I love Charlotte Flair. Don't get me wrong, but she looks like a Playboy bunny, and that's all right, you know. But Alley Catch, I like her body style. I like seeing her because she just looks like a natural woman. You
Yeah.
know what's it's the novelty of it, a natural woman. So okay, I'm off my soapbox.
So in regards to Black Venus, who I never heard of, but I just found about her. Ah, I got some bad news. She passed away almost 28 years ago.
She
But
was a badass. She was with another black woman, and the thing was called
Black
Bad
and
Black and
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yep, in LPW, and they wrestled against Misty Blue and Hailey Morgan, who we also
Misty Blue, and Linda Dallas. Linda Dallas used to go out there. She was big chested, and she would just go out there flapping with no bra on or nothing. Which I can't even. I know you can't tell, but I got something here. But uh, I can't imagine myself just running out in the street with no bra on, and she was doing a match.
yeah, but wow, you grew up watching some of the greats, man. Like, yeah, definitely follow our YouTube, and you could definitely see that Princess Victoria. It's not her though. That's our second one we did her, because the first one we have with her is actually on Spotify, which we're also on. And I was thinking that I would have had a hard time getting a hold of her, and I actually was able to get a hold of her easily. And I'm thinking, man, this woman's a legend. This woman made history. She was one of the first. She was one half of the first tag team to win the WWE Women's Tag Team titles back in the day. That's history right there. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I was like, wow. And I still, I heard how she left the sport, and sometimes I get in my feelings because, like, I hate to see people with so much potential get, you know, either not live up to it or like just get like screwed over. And I feel like that's what happened with her. And
Wendy Richter, the original Swerve. Wendy Richter.
that's why I'm glad women are getting their just due now, because I mean I always knew that they could have, gone they could have done well and gone the distance as much as men could. And I'm very happy for them. I've always been, an avid, supporter of, women getting their just due. I mean, they could do the same thing the men are doing. You know, I-
Now, one other thing, Andy Kaufman, R.I.P. made it finally made it into, I think it was long overdue. It was very unsuspecting that they did that with him, put him in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. And I had spoken to a gentleman friend of mine. He's like, "Oh yeah, I saw the movie Man on the Moon. I know who Andy Kaufman is." I'm like, "Okay, but you really don't know who Andy Kaufman is. Uh, if you just see the Man on the Moon movie, that's not all of him."
right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, please, please.
I was
Uh,
gonna say, that's not the wrestling part of him. That's like the I mean the wrestling was a minimal part, but they give you like the rest of his comedic career, and it's all and normally that's the Hollywood portrayal. Like people tend to leave stuff out and so on. So you do have a point there.
yeah, because I kind of see Andy Kaufman. When I looked at the whole thing of things, I saw Andy Kaufman as kind of like the predecessor to Brian Pillman being, a loose cannon. You had this guy that had absolutely nothing to do with, who kind of fell into wrestling. And I had to tell my little buddy, I go, you don't understand what he did to intergender matches. It's nothing now to see a man and a woman fight. Now it's like, whatever's clever. You see this all the time. You got women champions now, with Masha Slamovich, Yuri Yashimashita. I always say her name wrong. But back then, you didn't have cell phones. You barely had a VCR. You definitely didn't have just, cameras. Just everybody had a camera or anything. So the only way that you knew things were happening were TV, radio, a magazine that was a month late, and you wrote into the back of the magazines. You can write in to stuff, and that's the only thing you knew. He was doing this back then, and people knew about it. And this was something where he made his own intergender belt. And Jerry the King Lawler, actually, I mean, they were all friends and whatnot, but Jerry the King Lawler took a black woman, trained her. Now, I don't know if she was already a wrestler or not, but trained her to go against Andy, against, to fight, to be along with the shtick. Of course, he won. It was his belt, and then I think he retired it. But I was trying to explain to this young man that he did a lot for intergender wrestling. Not that he started it, but he did a lot for it. Nobody had ever thought about it or said two beats about it till he came along. Yeah, he deserves to be in the Wrestling Hall of Fame for that. It's just that's another one. What happened? What would he be doing now if he didn't, die so young?
Honestly, he probably would have been some sort of ambassador with WWE. I think that's what he would have done. He probably would have like been. Let's see, Andy Kaufman. How old was he when he died? Andy
Like
Kaufman.
43, I believe.
Let me see. Andy Kaufman. Let me see. I'm checking right now.
Matka on Taxi.
Let me see. He was. Yeah, he was 35 years old. So let's see. We're in 2022, so that was like almost 40 the
It was
40
like
years.
84. It was like 84, 85.
84 he died. So he would have been sorry, I'm not that good at math. He would have been 73, 73, 70, actually 74 to be exact.
Well,
So
Terry
he probably,
Funk's still trying to do something. I'm glad they took him out of commission. He was going to hurt himself.
yeah, I would say after a certain age. I mean, yeah, they say age is never a number, but yeah, no, after a certain age, like you just gotta chill out, man. Like just enjoy the fruits of your labor. I mean, go be a manager or an advisor or something. Shawn Michaels did it best. Shawn Michaels was like, okay, 45, I'm 45, I'm done. That's it. And he did that one match when he came back a couple of years ago, which okay, it was expected he had ring rust, but he didn't look that bad. But yeah, like there comes a time when you just gotta like you just gotta fold and let the new generation take over.
Shawn Michaels was like the cutest little thing on earth. And now he looks like he's been rode too hard and left out wet. I mean, he really looked like an itch. It's like the 70-year itch. He's,
You wanna know what's
I mean, he
funny?
looks awful. I remember all the hair and flying around. And,
You wanna know what's
and
funny?
he was in Playboy. Who's going to put him, I mean, Playgirl. Who's going to put him in Playgirl now?
They'll probably pay him not to do that anymore. They, back then they paid him to model. They'll probably pay him to keep his clothes on and go.
I mean, oh my gosh. I mean,
Oh,
he
it's
looks
funny though.
awful now. He
Sean
really, his
Sean
hair
Paul
is
became my
short, it's a bald spot.
well, he's almost 60 years old. I mean, it happens. You want to know what's crazy though?
What?
Marty Jannetty looks younger than him now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Marty Jannetty still has all his hair. I mean, Marty Jannetty he's a bit like wonky, like he's a bit like
I mean, he
crazy.
has bad ankles, but yeah, I mean, yeah, Barney Genetti looks wonderful. But Shawn Michaels and his eye is turned the other way. I mean, you okay, here, this is my good eye. This is my other eye. So,
But yeah, sometimes you just gotta like know when to fold and just just bow out gracefully. So in all years of wrestling, have you ever like met any wrestlers like from the WWE or any of those big promotions like in person? Or I know you probably met a ton of I know you met a ton of indie people, but
indie people I meet all the time. I take pictures with them. I thank them for their service, like the military. So, uh, uh,
I don't take pictures. I just like, hey, thank you for all the matches and the great work you've been doing. I shake their hand and I keep it moving. I might give them a fist bump and I keep it moving because I don't want to be that fan that's like one. I'm not only a fan of I'm also a podcast, so I don't want people to think, oh look, there goes Remy Blue from Ringside Society. He's that annoying fan, and next thing you know, people think I'm the same way on my show, which I'm definitely not. So I normally keep it short. Fist bump. Thank you for all you do. And I keep it moving. I might hit him with a business card. Like, hey, this is my business card for my podcast. Like to have you on sometime. I keep it moving. I try to give people their space. I'm like that. So I like my space when I'm there. So yeah, but
well,
so
if it's at the show, I'll chat with them. If it's on Instagram, there's a certain wrestler. Ha ha. Uh, there's a certain wrestler that whenever I see him get a hard bump or so because he is so physical doing death matching. Uh, I'll text him up, not to, but on Instagram, and hey, that was a hard bump. And he'll let me know, it's okay, it's all right, we're doing, oh cool, no problem. I just want to check up in on you. I mean, just keep it, like you said, keep it short and sweet, and that's it.
yeah,
I always check in with him, see how is he doing. I mean, when he comes out, I'm definitely at the show. And some of y'all know who this person is. So, but I know I never during that time when I was a youngster, no, I never really met any of the big people back then. I mean, again, I was still uh, a kid. My mom wasn't going to let me, go out and meet anybody. It was more or less, okay, it's over at 10 o'clock. I need to see you right there at 10 o'clock. I'll be here. She would go and pick me up. So, but now with indie wrestlers, I always say hello to indie wrestlers and thank them for their service.
that's cool. That's cool. But I gotta say, man, you were hilarious at that dark art. You were like, okay, get false hair out of the ring. I don't even between you and Wendy, y'all were like hilarious.
Ooh, Wendy was actually quite tame. You hear that
I'm s-
voice?
I'm
Shut
still
the fuck up! Yeah.
I'm seeing her because that's like she's so little and all this energy comes out of that little body. And I'm like,
Yes, yes.
I remember it's funny because the next show I went to the day after that was the Santino brothers, the Santino Bros show at the Ukrainian Center, Cultural Center. Man, let me tell you, I was like, y'all got some sweet ass venues, man. That Don Quixote and the
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 Ukrainian Cultural Center.
I'm like, yo,
It's
these
beautiful.
yeah, I was like, wow. I was like, man, y'all got it all locked, man.
Now, the best thing about the Ukrainian Cultural Center is that right next to it is a parking garage, like
Uh
a 3, 4 layer parking garage. So you'll never have to worry about parking. And it's free.
okay.
So you could just go in there. I've never seen it completely full. So you're still on the first level and you just go there, park, and then walk right out. Now, what they did was they covered that. that fence with like garbage bags or something.
Right.
That's where that was a bullpen for where all the wrestlers would hang out at till their match was. So they covered that up finally. They covered that up. But otherwise, you could walk around the corner and see your wrestler and, hey, how y'all doing? And, take pictures as they're going by before the show starts.
Yeah. So I remembered that same show, not that same show, not to digress. The Santino Bros show. I saw Wendy come to that same show. So I'm like, I made a joke. I was like, "Are you stalking me?" And she's like, "Are you stalking me?" And I was like, "Okay, my bad, my bad. I was joking. I was joking. Don't kill me, you know." But yeah, y'all were like hilarious at that dark arts show. Y'all were like, you were like, "Yeah, get man boobs out of the ring, out of the ring." What? I'm
Look,
like,
I'm here to see the show. I ain't y'all do that outside. I'm here to see the show. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
that was crazy,
Get the
man.
wig out the ring. Let's get started. Get the wig out. I need to see the show here. This is what I paid for.
I saw what you did. I was like, wow. I was like, that's mad funny, man. That's
What's actually real funny is that I do that at all the shows that I go to,
okay,
and I will have wrestlers or somebody come back to me and say, "Thank you for the shtick," or "Thank you for the heat." Because
right.
they love that. They love it when you yell back at them and they'll yell back at you. So that's why I never feel bad about, sometimes I get a little bit mouthy and so forth because it's something that they like the banter back and forth. So uh,
So,
when they see me, they'll
funny
get
thing
some
you mentioned that
tongue.
because so funny thing, what I did that with Cal Jack. Cal Jack was wrestling. I forgot who he was wrestling. I think it was Simon Miller or somebody. It was like the dark. I think it was Dark Arts, and I was like, "Let's go, Cal Jack!" I started that chant, and he looked over, and then look, and I don't know, for some reason, y'all California wrestlers, like the California wrestlers, they remember people's faces because I was standing in line for the next show, which was the Pandemonium show, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey man, thanks for starting that chant." And I was like, "Hey, welcome, man." I was like, "Wow, like I'm surprised you remember me. Like I'm just like a random fan, you know." And
Oh, no, you're not random. Believe me. They will come if you start something for or against them, or even just argue back and forth. That's, I assume that's something uniquely here. Whoever will come out and say, "Hey, thank you for that, giving me shtick and so forth," because it looks good to those other folks that don't know what's happening. But it gives them a chance to, use their mouth skills or mic skills and so forth. Like that one guy from Riverside, I'm like, who the hell wants to go to Riverside? There's nothing out there. You're from Riverside? You really claiming that? There's nothing but dirt, marijuana plants, banana trees, rats. I mean, wait a minute.
hey,
That's what you want to claim. Nobody lives out there but you. You know, that's it. Just you. And you want to claim that dirt. Okay, go right ahead.
they
That's
would
why
love you. They would love you in New York, man. Oh, geez, you.
that's why the land over there is 3 acres for $1. And you want that? Okay, that's where you lived at. Okay, yeah, that's where California got started, right there in Riverside, and it left. So
But
it,
yeah,
it,
yeah, wow, that's awesome. But hopefully, you get man, they would love. I hope you get a chance to come over here and check out a couple of shows, man, because they love you over here, man. They would have a I don't know how you got it. I don't know how it is with you right now, but we got Black Wrestle Fest coming up here in June, so if you can make it over here for that June 17th. So gonna be here in Brooklyn. I went to I went to the inaugural event, which was last year. It was pretty good. If you can make it over here, man,
Now,
trust
tell me this: is there a way that is that going to be on Fight TV or another
me.
streaming service?
I don't even know, but I know the um, page that you might want to hit up is actually called Black Wrestle Fest. Just if you type it in, you
Black Wrestler Fest. Okay.
if you put in Black Wrestle Fest, you'll probably see them, and you can probably just message them and ask them. I know Danny is the one that actually runs it. She's a female Danielle, and yeah, she actually is the one. She'd be the best authority to ask, like if it's gonna be on Fight TV or IWTV or even on YouTube.
No, that's something that I would be interested in. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it or not. However, I could probably set up a viewing party or something here because we do have a lot of wrestlers here.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps maybe some of them might even be going there, I don't know. Or I
So
would be interested to see who's the lineup.
I told the foundation about them. I told the M4 mixtape and also Zoe, aka Black Swan, who was actually there. I told them about it, and yeah, we'll see if they I don't know if they're gonna make it or not. If they can make it, that would definitely be great because um it's like I said, it's a great event. And Black people, believe it or not, have actually contributed a lot to um wrestling, like the professional wrestling world. I mean, I could show you a woman right now, Yolanda Jernigan, aka she runs like gimmicks 24/7, and she has designed gear for so many wrestlers, popular wrestlers. She designed gear for Cesaro.
Oh,
Yeah, she designed gear for Cesaro, and she's been doing it for I think 10, 12 years, maybe 13 years now.
and what's her name again?
Yolanda. It's a gimmicks is a Gimicks, and she got to tell her story um last, last year at Black WrestleFest, and she's one that's contributed a lot. You got Sandra Gray, aka at SGO Vintage, who's on Instagram, who has done it. So I mean, who's been making gear for several wrestlers. So I mean, Black people have actually been contributing a lot to pro wrestling. As a matter of fact, um, there's a brother right now that is running an all women's promotion in Delaware, CCW, Capital Championship Wrestling. That promotion has had people like well, they're gonna have Miyu Yamashita. Um, I believe it's not this weekend, but next weekend. They've had Shaza McKenzie from Australia. They've had Steph Delander from Australia. They have somebody coming in from England that's going to be on their show. So I mean,
And this
if
is in Delaware.
Delaware, Houston, Delaware, Houston, Delaware. Yeah, and
Well, let me tell you this. There's a black-owned uh, wrestling organization here, Compton Mania,
oh
and guess
really?
where it's at?
In Compton?
You get a winner. They put together a very good show all the time. Uh, and the cool thing about it is that I would want them to speak about this themselves, and that's something I can definitely try to hook you up with them. But they actually have their shows in the parking lot of a dentist office.
Okay,
And this last time I've been putting up pictures that was at this last Compton Mania, which was on the 30th, Team Compton against the world, where they had your Compton folks and then you had your world folks. Like one person was from Ireland, one person was from Syria, one person was from New Zealand, that thing.
wow.
But it's such a well put together thing. And then they have folks come in. You had like the NAACP was there doing the electric slide.
What?
I mean, it was so funny. It was so cool. And the best thing about that whole show are the two owners, how they go back and forth and they do their announcing.
Mm.
I'm surprised how come they haven't made it bigger than maybe that's coming. But it's such a talent to see them how they banter back and forth, and it's this is kind of like just coming off the top of the head the way they do this. and I'm just always impressed to see them both put things together like this. But it's a nice, it's a really wonderful show that they put together. The last show that I went to, the one before the last show, they did vignettes. So they go out and they do tapings of what the storyline is, and you see the storyline on the big screen. They
Yeah.
actually have like this humongous jumbo Tron that's like 12 feet by 20 feet by 20 feet. So, and it's just very well put together. I enjoy going there. That's why you didn't see me at any of the collective stuff on that during that day, except for the culture, because I went to Compton Mania. I did my death match March 30th. I did my death matches. Then I went to Compton Mania, and then I bounced up for the culture, and I did for the culture back at the Ukrainian Cultural Center. But yeah, I have to turn you on to Compton Mania.
I'll definitely check it out. I know there's just so much to watch, but I'll definitely check it out. But yeah, Black Wrestle Fest. I'll try to find their Instagram thing, their Instagram page, and I'll send it to you, and you could contact them. I think it'd be great as well. We're most likely going to be sponsoring it again this year, so um it's definitely worth checking out as well too. And so wait, the GCW. I thought when I heard the GCW Collective, I didn't even know it was like a bunch of shows. I thought it was one GCW show. I didn't know they had like stuff in collaboration with Santino Bros and Pandemonium, and I thought it was like just one show called the Collective that they were having one night. I didn't know it was like a whole bunch of shows.
Well, yeah, the collective was at the Ukrainian Cultural Center. Now they may have had a couple of, you know, helper shows with, other people. I think it was DDT out of Japan. They did like a collage show together, but their package was all at the Ukrainian Cultural Center. Honestly, you could have bought front row seat tickets for $600, I believe, and never leave and never leave the center. Just stay there. Do. You know, plus the parking is so wonderful. You can leave there, go to Hollywood and come back. I mean, there's taco trucks everywhere. That place. So there, I mean, food was everywhere with there.
That's what I like with that place. I was like, I was when I was in California. I was like, man, I gotta find me a nice little mom and pop restaurant where I can get me a nice burrito. I was like, I just want a burrito, preferably a California burrito. And lo and behold, I walked up and I saw this Mexican restaurant. I was like, okay, then here we go. And I went there. I was like, I want a California burrito. And man, because when I used to live, when I was in Oceanside, I used to on the weekends I would go to this Mexican restaurant, which is right next to the train station in downtown Oceanside, and I would get me a California burrito, complete with fries and everything, and a nice big cup of Jamaica. And that was my thing before I'd go to like either Los Angeles or San Diego. That was my thing. Man, those were great days. But yeah, I got that and I was like, man, it took me back, man. Definitely took me back.
Well, I need to take you in the hood to go get you a pastrami sandwich.
I
To
don't do
forget
I
that.
try to shut up now. Hey, I watched Snowfall and I've seen all them little, movies and whatnot. I'm just playing. But I gotta say, man, so you have your own podcast as well too, right?
Yes, I'm doing a lot of interviews now. I've been putting up a lot of photos of what's happening, what's been happening over the past couple of days. I'm doing a lot of interviews. I'm interviewing the whole gambit, like I was saying earlier. The cameramen, the younger wrestlers, the people that put the crafts together and so forth. I like to hear their stories and what's happening. And international wrestlers, they have a different story of how what's it like to work here, and then have to go back across the pond or wherever they came from. It's always real interesting. I find people's stories real interesting.
Great minds think alike, because that's exactly the same way I think too. Even with the referees, people think that refereeing is, you're just standing up and just counting one, two, three. No, you gotta be attentive, and you're gonna train to bump whenever you become a referee. That's what I heard. I mean, and it's not surprising, And something I noticed was when you're a part of the wrestling industry, one thing that's across the board that you always have to have is focus. Like I remember when I was a timekeeper, I went to a CCW show, my first and only CCW show so far in Delaware. Well, it was in New Jersey this time, and I went there. I'm cool, I'm just there chilling, and the owner Marcello said, "Hey, could you be?" He asked me if I could be a timekeeper for the show. I was like, "Yeah," and I did pretty well because I was like, but I noticed that you had to focus. You couldn't just stand there and stare in space, and you couldn't like, just you couldn't be too much of a fan because you still had a job to do. And that was my job was
Yeah,
ringing the bell when the ref said ring the bell. So
I got a funny story about that.
go ahead.
For a particular organization, I'm the official bellkeeper there.
Okay.
What happened is evidently the physical bell had disappeared and the sound effect, they didn't have the sound effect for the bell. But because of this wrestler that I mentioned about earlier that I'm just really liking and people know who he is, uh, on their Instagram, he had a frying pan in his hand. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring you a frying pan. So I had this frying pan, this soup pan. They didn't have a bell, so my friend was like, well, hit the gate with it. So I went, and the ref was like, okay, well, we'll use that as the bell. So all the matches, it was me hitting the gate with this pan. And that's how people remember me as being the official bell keeper. And I get asked all the time, do you have your blue pot? I'm like, yes, I do. It's at home. But now I have a white pot. So some. I
That's a great story, man. That's
don't
a
know how you forget your bell sound effect or your or it's something. I don't know how you forget that, but
yeah. It happened. Hey, I guess it happens. So, man, I just gotta say, so before I just got two more. I just got like two more questions before we wrap it up. So my second to last question is, what's your next show that you're gonna be going to? You don't know?
N- no, I do.
Okay, my
Here's
bad.
the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. We have so many shows that happen all the time. There are
Okay,
so many shows that are happening all the time. The one show that I am waiting for is XPW, California. That is an 8 hour long tourney to crown who is king of the death matches again. That's 8 hours long. You're there for 8 hours. I did that last year. This time I was like, oh my gosh. I stood there through all that mess. It was just unbelievable. So I'm going to be there again. Unbelievable. Living through that.
I have nothing against them. They just gotta lay off the syringes, man. Like real talk.
I'm trying to talk to that guy too. I'm trying to. He's been quite elusive. That's all I'll say. But
I mean, I would
I've,
be upset too if I was in that if I was in that match. Shoots.
well, I mean, it takes two to tango to do that. So one person had to like that.
Um, it's a no for me. I'm good on that. Yeah,
It's a no for you.
it's a no for me. Like with
Okay, I saw exactly what had happened, and I thought it was rather interesting because I at first I thought it was okay. It was did we just see a Prince Albert happen? And I was like, no, because I went back. I'm like, no. Uh, so I just think it was just a piercing that happened there.
My thing is this: I can understand low blows. I could understand shattered dreams. I could understand maybe even doing a spot with, you know, you hit the guy in or girl, because women do stuff like that too. Let's be honest. A certain young lady took a bloody tampon and
That's
put it on.
nasty. That's just filthy.
Yeah, and my thing is stuff like that. I don't want to see. Like this, I understand it's death match system, but come on, like stuff with genitalia. I don't. If it's if it's a low blow, fine. It's a, or like you do one of the Tommy Dreamer spots where you take a bowling ball and you hit the person in the car. Okay, fine. But
I've seen that.
there's a limit, and yeah, yeah, it's a no for me for that. Like I don't want to see that. To each their own. To each their own. Don't get me wrong. If people like that stuff, by all means, go forward. But it's just not really my thing.
Well, I don't know if if they received any real backlash for that or not. Because with the syringe thing, that's to me, it's kind of more of a Japanese thing that they kind of
Oh,
did that all the time over there. I was like, okay, but it never got. They have a unusual sense of humor over there, so. Uh, but I've never seen it done like this, and I'm not sure if they've received a lot of backlash against that or not. So it's probably why they're streaming on their own service
mm,
and not on Fight TV or anything for which we might see more stuff like this because we know who runs the show there.
each their own, man. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see that. So my last question to you:
Yes, yes.
a wrestling fan is going to California for the first time, wants to see some wrestling matches. What are your top five promotions you would recommend for him or her to check out in California?
I would say
And they're open to anything. Let's see, because let's be honest, wrestling fans some like, let's say this wrestling fans open to anything. Like, what would you
oh
recommend?
okay, PCW Ultra, definitely. They have large crowds. They're good quality shows. They are filmed. Uh, you could meet the wrestlers before and afterwards. Afterwards, sometime. Every so often, well, now it's been a mainstay where they have an old school wrestler come in, like they've had Ted DiBiase, Shava Guerrero. Right now, they dug up Ahmed Johnson,
Oh, okay.
Abdullah the Butcher's younger brother, and brought him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I could go in my closet right now and I could pull out an old Ahmed Johnson T-shirt from the WWF. I
Okay.
can go pull that out. So I
I'm
said I
not.
want him to sign it. He's a So definitely very good quality shows. NTLL, which is a lucha libre type of organization, they're in Palmdale, which is a very north. It's a desert. They have their matches are in a brewery, so the beer is always flowing and it's good. And they have some very serious, intense competition there,
Okay.
which I thoroughly, thoroughly love. I like XPW when it comes around.
Teach their
Uh,
own. No judgment. No judgment at all.
Relentless Pro Wrestling. This is more on the OC again. Uh, what people got to remember is Los Angeles is TMZ. 20-mile zone, which means Los Angeles proper is only 20 miles. Everything outside of Los Angeles is just like the county of Los Angeles, meaning that we're just really spread out wide. So to go from one place to the other place, you're looking at 45 minutes minimum of a drive. And that's just with traffic. So to go down to the OC with Orange County, you have Relentless Pro Wrestling. They do their thing at a American Legion Hall. It's a beautiful area there. That's three.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
PCW, XPW, Intel, and Relentless. So it's actually four.
Yeah, now you have San Diego. There's some outfits out in San Diego that are really good. Now I haven't ventured out that way,
Mm.
but that's another thing here is that you can go to San Diego.
Wow.
Prestige is starting to pop up again here in downtown LA. Now, if you go to downtown LA, you're going to pay for parking. I would try to go there on the train and be careful because you got homeless folks, renegade homeless folks.
On the train in San Diego?
You can get them there too.
What? I used to be in San Diego because I was stationed in Ocean. Like I said, I was stationed in Oceanside, and I used to I used to go to San Diego more than LA because I love San Diego. And I remembered I used to have my hotel in National City, and I used to like go. So I used to book my hotel there, check in by 3 o'clock, chill for like 3 4 hours, watch some TV, whatever, and then I'd actually make my way to downtown San Diego, aka the Gaslamp District. I know you probably know where that is, but that's like 4 or 5 blocks of bars and hotels, well, not hotels, but like bars and clubs and so on, restaurants, etc. And then by like 2 o'clock, because for some reason California's parties end at 2, I would
Yeah,
I would go
yeah.
back to my room and then the next morning, head back to base from there. And I never really saw a homeless person on those trains, but I don't know. I guess things changed now. That was like 6, 7 years ago.
It when the old guy when the old mayor was in, he just kind of let it hang loose and it was just awful. The new mayor is trying her best. She's trying her best. She picked up a really bad situation, so I'm not going to hang her out to dry on this one. 2 years from now, we'll see. But right now she just got in and she's trying her best. But it used to be it's in some spots it's ridiculous, still ridiculous. But she's trying her best, and we applaud her for her efforts, Karen Bass. So uh, you have a you have a lot of outfits in Orange County, OCCW, and you also have Venue Wrestling.
VWE, I've heard of them.
They also have a good quality product too. Now, parking for them is just you got to get there early, or you got to park a block away. And it's outside too, so if it's raining, I'm not sure what happens. I don't go when it's raining. But and the one
Awesome.
thing about out here that I do like is that you're bound to see some friends. You're bound to see like Wendy, Eric was there. I don't know if you saw Eric, the wrestling enthusiast podcast.
Yeah, I
He
think
was
they're both part of that, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah, I can't remember seeing him.
He is an encyclopedia of he's an internet just in his head.
You know who I saw though?
Who?
Ah, it's funny how like she's not even a wrestler, but she just stuck a heel Liz.
Heel Liz is out here too. Oh my goodness, very much so. Yes, yes.
Yes, I saw her at Santino Bros. I was like, you look for. No, first I asked her, "Are you a wrestler?" Because I thought she was like, she looked like a wrestler. She's like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, then I was like, "You look for me." I was like, You're here,
Heal
Liz.
Liz.
And she's like, yeah. I'm like, yo, I see you all. And I mean, I asked her if she'd be on a podcast. She's like, yeah, just DM her. I'll try. Yeah, and she said she was trying to get into like the interviewer, backstage interviewer part of it. I'm like, yeah, I definitely hope you get it. And I told her if I was running a promotion, I would definitely hire her because I like to hire people that look different. And the fact that you look at the average interviewer and they have like they're all clean cut, but she has the tattoos on her hand. I'm like, I would hire you just because of that. The
She
fact,
had these nails that looked like this on her
yeah,
finger. I just said, I don't know how you do anything with that.
I would hire her for that too. I told this other girl, Stephanie Hardy, the same Queen Stephanie Hardy. She has her own podcast and Hardy Wrestling Podcast. I told her, yeah, I would definitely hire you too. She's black. She has all these African hairstyles. I said, yeah, I would definitely hire you just based off of that. How just being different, standing out. So yeah, it's funny, and I've seen some other people that are from the East Coast, like Samantha. Oh, geez, she used to wrestle, but now she's a backstage interviewer. But somehow, is it Laterna? Sam Laterna? I think that's her name. But she used to be a wrestler. She was actually, I think she may have trained at Johnny Rod's wrestling school here in New York. But then, she kind of just retired from entering action and just went um to doing like interviews, which is great still. But yeah, I saw her out here too for the Pandemonium show. So yeah.
One other thing, real quick, is that Santino Brothers is known for their wrestling school. They've been around forever. Everybody knows them. You can't. Most of the people they're pumping out good people and good product, most definitely. Now there are other schools that are popping up by wrestlers. They've put together their own schools. Rikishi
Ox
school
Pro.
is not that far from where I live.
Ox Pro. I know about it.
Right. So it's amazing. Now, funny thing, the last time I saw Rikishi, he was at Adult Con. That's kind of a sexual wellness convention. But he was just there taking pictures with folks. That was it. But you have B Boy, who's a
I know
long time
he's
Los
Filipino,
Angeles,
right?
huh?
He's Filipino, right?
I've never asked him.
I know about B Boy. B Boy's like the West Coast Homicide. Like people know who he is.
Lil
He's like,
Cholo, and yeah, these are some old school guys that are homegrown. He has his school out in San Diego.
okay.
I mean, it's just a lot of people are now putting their efforts into putting a school together and specializing in a particular different type of wrestling, which I think is really fabulous. So I don't know if other places have, five different schools. I mean, Los Angeles, like I said, is so wide. I would hate to have to go to Santino Brothers all the time from where I live at. I'm a Valley girl, having to drive all the way down there. You're looking at an hour and a half. But again, you have Rikishi School, which is it just depends on what you're looking for, also. So
I just saw some B Boy. I mentioned B Boy and Homicide. They were actually a tag team. Team Friday. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But yeah, I know about it's funny things. Like I said, I live in New York. I'm not Mr. Know It All, but certain things I do know. I do know about Knox Pro, Rikishi running it, and he's had people like Otto is it Otto Von Clutch, who was on our show. He's had the Vanity Twins, who are gonna be
the Vanity Twins, yes, I'm familiar with them.
they're gonna be making their CCW debut for the second annual Capital Cup, which is gonna have other people like I think the Renegade Twins are gonna be in it, and so on. So yeah, I'm familiar with um certain happenings, and yeah, Rikishi's doing a great job as well. So he has another girl by I think her name is J Rod. or J Rod is her name, or J. She was just on AEW like not too long ago, but she is a beast. Like it would not surprise me if AEW or WWE signs her very soon. But yeah, y'all are definitely doing great things, and I'm definitely gonna. I'm speaking it into existence. I'm definitely gonna witness some more shows there real soon. Hopefully, not just in SoCal, but NorCal as well too. 'Cause I know they got a lot of good stuff as well.
Las Vegas.
Well, I know about Las versus Pro. I know about Las Vegas FSW. I
A
know.
lot of wrestlers here, they go to Las Vegas and tear it up there, then they come back here. I mean, there's a real, I'm pretty sure there's a circuit up there,
Yeah,
like a tri-state circuit. Here it's you can go to Las Vegas, Arizona. PCW Ultra has a little group in Arizona because whenever they have the shows, some of the folks from there come help with the show, and they'll
Arizona.
have exhibition matches during the show. So definitely Arizona, Mexico, North Cal, SoCal, uh, Las Vegas, 5.
I'll definitely try to make that happen real soon. I've been to Phoenix before. Phoenix is pretty nice. Definitely a cool place to check out.
I
Uh,
don't know about that. I was there for the Super Bowl. You
oh
couldn't even tell the Super Bowl. I thought it was a church group. Like, you couldn't even tell the Super Bowl was happening. When the Super Bowl was here in Los Angeles the year before, everything was on blast, blitz everywhere. I mean, it was just stuff happening. You had jugglers in the street, vendors, everything. I went to I went to Phoenix, and it just looked like a Sunday park. It was nothing. I was just like, what the hell is this? Okay, I could have stayed home. I mean, Ventura Boulevard, right out the street, has more stuff happening right now at 10 o'clock on a
yeah,
Friday. Ventura seems more interesting than Phoenix in the daylight. I don't know.
yeah. I went to Phoenix one time several years ago. I'm talking like 14 years ago. But I'll definitely try to check it out. Check out the wrestling scene. I know there's a championship wrestling from Arizona. There's also Arizona Wrestling Federation. I think there's a place called Impact Zone Wrestling over there too. So yeah, I'm familiar with certain places. Um, but I just gotta say, LA Wrestle Chick, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on our show. We really and truly appreciate it. And before we shut this show down, where can fans find you on social media when they want to talk wrestling, check out your podcasts, all that good stuff?
Okay, the best way to reach me is on Instagram right now. I will be doing everything else, hooking everything up, but Instagram is the best place to check me. But remember, it's LA LA Wrestle Chick. Or if you see this, okay, where is it? This little thing right here, you can pinch that and that'll send you directly to right there. That's it. The QR code that'll send you directly to me. But most happy, please come talk to me. I'd love to talk wrestling with somebody. I love to converse. Let's sit down. Let's have a meeting of the minds like you and I just did. I totally love this. And if you're an old school wrestling fan, please.
I might have to get you back on our because I'm planning on doing an episode where we talk about how things were back in the territory days, and I have a guy by the name of he's so Evan Ginsberg. Every day he talks about how much he hates WWE. He can't stand Vince McMahon and how greedy they are. And I just at first I thought it was like, what's this man's problem? But then every time it's like I had him on the show too before, but now it's like I can't help but laugh. It's like he's and I'm not
I
laughing at
will.
him. Just how pissed off he is. Like I can't stand Vince. He makes me sick. He's so greedy. And some of you fans want to support him, but you don't want to go and support an indie. I'm
Those
just.
are little kids. I mean, I was like that too as a little kid. So, I mean, but those are little kids. They don't see the value in looking at the high school football team, the college team. They're only looking at the professional teams, but not thinking, where do you get these guys from? They just don't magically appear in the football. in a Rams uniform or a Jets uniform. They have to work their way up. But if you ever want to do that if you want to ever do a show about just Vince McMahon,
Well,
make
not
sure you
it's not going to be about bashing Vince McMahon. It's going to be about how things were back in the territory days,
right.
versus now, and pretty much a lot. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly we're going to talk about. Like, is it going to be just about the territory days? And it probably might be that, like, how things were back in the territory days and so on. Um, Also, what if WB never existed? What if Vince McMahon never got the idea to bring everybody together? Stuff like that. But
Well, he wasn't the only one with the idea. I think he may have had the better mousetrap, but Crockett and a couple of these other guys, they tried to do it too, but they weren't talking everybody's language correctly.
yeah, true, true. But we're definitely gonna. I'm definitely. I might just have you on for that episode because it's you, Evan. I'm thinking John Cosper and maybe this other guy that did a brilliant documentary, Chris Bornier, who was at Black Wrestle Fest last year. He did I forgot what the name of the documentary is, but basically it was talking about black women in wrestling in the 50s, like
I
back
would be interested in looking at that. Yes.
that interview. We have that interview on our YouTube as well too. I'll try to send you that in the Princess Victoria one. But yeah, I definitely would like to have him on. Just a gathering of great minds talking about wrestling and how it was and how it's changed and so on. And I'll definitely let you know when you're probably yeah. I'll definitely let you know when it's gonna happen, and we'll definitely have you on. Because it's great to hear from like old school minds, like well, not old school, not no offense, but like, just like because
Oh,
I was watching since like 1990, so I consider myself old school too as well. But just to hear like how it was back then and so on. So yeah, I'll
we
definitely.
also about how technology has changed this. One, if technology was how it is right now, you and I, this will be a phone call at best
Yeah,
between me and you. And
yeah,
so for something to happen up here, you would never know it happened there and how the it would travel. You didn't have cell phones. You barely again, you didn't even have VCRs back in the 70s.
right.
You had like what ham radio set. I don't even listen to terrestrial radio anymore. So I'm satellite radio all the time. It's how technology has affected the wrestling scene has definitely it's definitely had a mark on what's happening, how we communicate, the visual effects. We expect to see explosions all the time at shows. There's a certain level of things that we expect to see. And if we don't see it, we're going to call the show trash no matter how hard it took that poor promoter to put it together. So, how technology has affected wrestling, I think would be a good show too.
Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely talk about that. We will definitely talk about that. Best believe you're definitely going to be on my list to have for that episode. But with that being said, for those of y'all, make sure you follow this woman. She's doing great things. If you're an old school wrestling fan, she's an old school wrestling fan too. It's definitely a great person to talk to. Also, check out her podcast. She has a lot of great people from the local indie scene in Cali. And I always tell y'all know I always tell y'all, for those of y'all listening or watching, if you're on the East Coast, check out what's on the West Coast. You will be
Yeah.
surprised at the amazing talent you see. And vice versa. If you're on the West Coast, check out what's going on the East Coast. You will be amazed to see there. You'll be like, wow, who's that person? You know, and you know how you can do it? You can go on Fight TV. You can go on Independent Wrestling TV. You can go on YouTube and
YouTube is the best thing on earth. You don't
Exactly.
have to pay for it. You just put something in. Even if you just hear someone's name, you think you heard their name, put it in, see what pops up. I do this all the time. YouTube is my best research.
Yeah, that's where I watch. I've watched a lot of my wrestling too. It's YouTube. So y'all definitely use those tools, you know. And I could tell y'all, when I was in Japan, stationed in Japan, I was watching wrestling all over the world. I was watching wrestling in Japan. I was watching wrestling in on the East Coast and the West Coast. I pretty much knew my fair share of people all over the United States of America and pretty much all over the world. So definitely, do your research. Trust me, you will not be bored. But with that being said, it's about time for us to shut this show down. My eyelids are getting heavy. My stomach is drumming. That means it's time for dinner. Well, I guess a early morning snack and a nap. But before I partake in those activities, if you want to find me on social media, not that I say anything cool these days, but I do go to a lot of cool places. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Remy Blue. You can also find me on Facebook under the alias Remy Blue, and you can also, well, oh, that's about it for me. Our podcast is on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Society, Twitch at Ringside Society 2019. We're on Facebook as a Facebook group. We're also on Spotify, and we also have a Teespring store where we sell official Ringside Society merch. We have T-shirts, we have tank tops, we have hoodies, we have long sleeve shirts, and we even have pillows and coffee mugs for your favorite warm beverage. So definitely check us out. You will not be disappointed. We have a lot of cool designs as well too. And once again, all proceeds from those sales go back into keeping our show afloat. They do not go back into our pockets. And last but not least, we also have a YouTube channel where you can see cool interviews like this one, like the one we have with Zoe Dubois, the Foundation, many other great talent from the West Coast, many other great talent all over the world. Just check us out. All you gotta do is go on YouTube, type in Ringside Society, and once you see that really beautiful dark blue and light blue yin yang sound with the blue flames around it, that's when you know it's us. So make sure you subscribe to all our videos because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and you don't want to miss a thing like Aerosmith in 1998. And as a matter of fact, I'm feeling so nice right now. I had my 23rd was it the 2023 limited edition Pepsi. It's peep marshmallow peep flavored Pepsi. I'm feeling so great right now. I'm feeling so happy because I just had that. I'm gonna give y'all a little spoiler as for tomorrow's episode. So tomorrow's episode is gonna be a woman who is making her name in the DMV. That's right. My co-host Rob Base's neck of the woods. We're gonna be having the one and only Adriana Mosley on our show. She doesn't hail from Samoa, but she is of Samoan descent. And she's the only Samoan wrestler, to my knowledge, that actually wrestles in the DMV. And she is no joke. So definitely make sure you tune in and check out that interview as well. It'll be tomorrow at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's, 10 o'clock for all my people in the middle and 8 o'clock for all my West Coast riders. So make sure you check that out as well. And with that being said, I just want to thank everybody tuning in live tonight. We really and truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. We really and truly strive on being one of the best wrestling podcasts a wrestling fan could and should listen to, and we will not stop doing that. To those of y'all that are listening later on, we get a chance. Thank you very much in advance. And those of y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we'd go away. Well, like myself at the Gordon Corral, we're not going anywhere for a while. And with that being said, um, you know, we here at Ringside Society, we're very well aware to everybody and their grandparents and the parents of a podcast. Well, we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. So with that being said, I'm gonna say it one time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, and one time for my fellow wrestling fan, podcaster, and content creator, the LA Wrestle Chick with a Wrestling Fans podcast, Ringside Society, and we'll be back tomorrow. Well, actually, it's already Saturday over here. We'll be back later on tonight, actually, with another impressive guest. But until then, we just want y'all to do four favors for us: stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. We out. Peace.